I think we're a little bit different than a lot of agencies because we probably say no more than we say yes, and
Mm,
we do that from a place of love, right? Like if a
mm,
brand is not ready to scale, they're not going to be happy working with us, and we're not going to be happy working with them. Like we need a brand that's at that
mm,
stage where they've got strong foundations. They might need to be tweaked with that storytelling ability, but the founders or the marketing team, whoever it needs to be, they need to be ready to do all the things that will hit them to scale. And I think a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'm ready. And then they come in and they have very closed ideas of what they want to do or these guardrails. And that's not going to work when we're in the
mm.
cultural relevance business.
Hey guys, welcome to the Julian Castro Show. Today have a guest. Her name is Lindsay Nahmiache, and she is the founder of Verify Skincare and Jive, it's a PR and digital agency. Um, Lindsay, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So Lindsay, when someone introduces you and says that you own Jive and Verify Skincare, what comes to your mind?
Uh, an entrepreneur who gets bored really easily and likes doing a lot of things. But no, the through line of it is I've had the agency for 17 years, sold it,
Mhm.
ended up buying it back a few years later. But one of the threads is that we grow a lot of really great brands. And so over the years, we've also invested in a lot of brands. And then we bought a Verify Skincare as well, which was I was a customer, and it was a
Mm,
science-backed clinical brand, and I love the products. And they were a Canadian company, biotech, and they were starting to close down. And so I said, no, let's expand it to the US because people need to see this product. And so that's kind of where everything fits together. We have Jive, and then we have this Jive Labs where we invest in different businesses, and then some businesses we own all right. Some of them were partners in, and that's kind of how we've built the whole ecosystem.
gotcha. Okay, cool. So when you were building Jive, the first company, what was it that you wanted to achieve when you were, setting out to accomplish those things?
Oh man, this is like 17 years ago. I think it was one of those things by default. It was like I couldn't get a job, so you just start doing your own thing, and then all of a sudden, I mean, we were very lucky. Richard Branson and Virgin was one of our first clients back in the day, and we helped launch all the social media channels for business for Virgin Radio. And so from there, then we pivoted into digital really fast. And we've just evolved with it. So we do a lot in the influencer space, a lot in cultural relevance and TikTok and social and all of that. And then I would say that my biggest thing is like the power of human connection and stories, and storytelling is everything. Like I truly believe it. No matter what you're doing, I don't care if you're an accountant, I don't care if you're a doctor, like your ability to tell a story and connect emotionally with people is what separates great from average. And that's kind of the ethos that's applied to everything that we do.
Wow. Okay. Incredible. So landing those big customers at the beginning really helped, put you in the space as one of the, credible authority figures. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, you're vetted when you're
Right.
working. You work for Virgin. I mean, it's going to work for a smaller company too. So it definitely helps. But marketing of all industries is the ones that's changing the most. So you can never get comfortable based on that. Like you're constantly having to iterate and change and grow. So I think like marketing is the most exciting and probably the most terrifying industry to be in because it's always changing. So you can never just sit back and be like, okay, this works. We'll just let it go. You're constantly having to reinvent and push, but that's also exciting because you get to be on the forefront of discovery and seeing what's working and what's not in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's do, what does your diagnosis look like when you set out to work with someone new? Let's say a brand hires you. You're like, what do you look for in week one to kind of establish yourself and understand the customer plus, their brand,
Yeah, I think we're a little bit different than a lot of agencies because we probably say no more than we say yes, and
Mm,
we do that from a place of love, right? Like if a
mm,
brand is not ready to scale, they're not going to be happy working with us, and we're not going to be happy working with them. Like we need a brand that's at that
mm,
stage where they've got strong foundations. They might need to be tweaked with that storytelling ability, but the founders or the marketing team, whoever it needs to be, they need to be ready to do all the things that will hit them to scale. And I think a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'm ready. And then they come in and they have very closed ideas of what they want to do or these guardrails. And that's not going to work when we're in the
Mm-hmm.
cultural relevance business. So we will work with brands that, and listen, we work with seed stage and we work with publicly traded companies. So we understand the guardrails of what you can and can't say when you're publicly listed. And those brands, especially that are those legacy brands, they're the ones that have to try even harder to keep themselves relevant because
Mm-hmm.
they've gone through their big growth stage and now they need to maintain and grow. And so I would say that when we're talking to different brands, it's, do they have a growth mindset and do they have a team that will support growth, and can they stomach a little bit of uncomfortableness in order to get
Mm-hmm.
there, because it's not all cookie cutter. And I think any agency will sit there and say, oh, yeah, we can do all those things. We don't do everything. We only do a certain few things. We do it very well. And we'll only do it with clients that we know we can be successful with.
Perfect. So you make sure that the soil is fertile, and then you make sure to start watering it. So okay, that's great. And so tell us a little bit about the main things that you do. What are those key things that you're really good at that really push the company, over the edge, to scale?
I think the storytelling piece. So it's, every brand has a story to tell, and some of them aren't telling it properly, or they're not telling it
Mm-hmm.
consistently, and they're not in line with where their target market is. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, everything begins with storytelling. We're not a paid advertising agency. We are not a creative advertising agency. That is not what we don't do branding. We don't do any of those things. What we do is we do amplification, growth, and cultural relevance. And we do that through influencer marketing. Everything is tied to ROI. So we use a lot of micro nano influencers and a whitelisting approach behind it. We
Mm-hmm.
do TikTok for cultural relevance. So we are jumping on trends. I've got a team of 20-year-olds that sit there all day and they can see the trends before that. I don't even know what they're talking about half the time,
Right.
but they'll say, you know what, this would be really good for this brand and this is why. And then they will activate creators within like a 4-hour window and jump on trends as they're about to take off if it's relevant for that brand. So that's what we do on the TikTok piece. And then we do PR, but we do more performance PR. So you can get a story in Wall Street Journal or whatever it might be, and great, that's vanity optics, but that's not actually
Right.
driving your business performance. So we bring the performance element into it, and we'll send traffic to things. We'll help clients that list for just LLM searches and all that. So PR drives performance and is tied to an ROI through that as well.
Nice, super cool. That's really cool. Yeah, the 20-year-olds have a complete new words, like they have new slang,
Oh,
and so that
yes, I can't
yeah,
even.
it's incredible. You have to keep up. So anyway, that's really cool. So influencer marketing and then mostly PR performance. So when you're looking at, you mentioned you look for someone that it has a growth mindset, that has a team that supports them, and also they're ready or willing to be uncomfortable, for this to happen. um what kind of things, like what companies usually invest in that, or work with that, that you'd see, as a client?
Yeah, so there's two sides. So we'll work with, like, obviously a lot of clients that we don't invest in, but the
Hmm.
advantage that they get is we've been around for 17 years, so we will use tried and true tested strategies that apply to different clients and apply it to them so they don't have as long of a learning curve. And then some brands that we end up working with is, you know, based upon the stage that they're at, like the founder, it's really the founder. So you have a conversation with the founder, you see what their vision is. I can tell that they have a growth mindset. I can tell that they're going to hit certain bumps in the road. And so those are the ones that will come in and we'll do an investment. And it's whether it's an active investment that we are their marketing arm and we're helping them, or it's more of a broader passive investment that will put money into them, we'll guide them on strategy, and then let them do what they need to do to grow. Or if it's like a just like a board seat, or just an investor that just comes on board with a cool brand, help them from a distance and let them lean. It totally depends.
Hmm.
um, we've done some great ones. We've had a couple go, well, one go double unicorn, a couple go IPO. We've had one get delisted. We've had one blow up completely. So like we kind of see it all. So and
Yeah.
it's then helpful to apply to the rest of the business to see what sets the good apart from the great.
No, of course. Yeah. I know in investing, when it comes down to it, you're basically investing in a whole batch of different companies and then hoping that one of them takes off or two, and then they would come up, they basically cover, all of the losses plus some, and you get that profit, right?
Yeah, and that's the traditional venture model. I think we're a
Mhm.
little bit different in that when we come on board, we can see the growth map, right? So like I
Mm,
can see like product market fit. I can see if they
mhm.
understand their audience or not. So we're not just investing like as a VC mindset at early stage or whatever stage it might be. Like we're
Right.
investing and we can actually see the market traction. Or, for instance, I know that right now TikTok is really putting emphasis on food discovery and food brands, right? Like there is like it's becoming more of like the Amazon for discovery and grocery and all of that. And
Right.
so when we have clients that approach us in that space, or we'll look for clients in that space, we're like, we want to be working with you right now because we want you to be a part of all the trends. We want you to be part of the algorithms that are about to take off. So we're able to see it in a different way of how we make those decisions.
That's good. That's good. So, can you tell us a little bit about the side of influencer marketing? How is an influencer marketing campaign actually done, where you actually have some performance metrics where clearly there's an ROI for the time spent or money spent?
Yeah, I think influencer marketing has been this thing that's kind of got a little murky in the last few years because everyone's doing it. But to us, you know what, it's great if someone with a large following posts like that creates some vanity brand credibility, but where we're
Mhm.
finding the real drivers for the brands that we work with is in this micro nano sphere, where we're able to just find creators that are really good storytellers. Again, everything's going back to the storytelling,
Mhm.
and they appeal to a certain demographic. So we might know that our client is looking to reach out to moms of toddlers, right? And so we're going for a real specific profile. And I might not care if they have hundreds of thousands of followers. I just want this mom that looks like this and appeals to this demographic because she's a great storyteller. And then we'll take her content and we'll whitelist behind it. So I don't care if she posts to her channels. Like that's just like a nice to have. But what I want is the
Right.
ability to whitelist behind her posts. So then we're able to show the actual ROI, and everything can be tied back to an ROI. We can even do foot traffic. And, we do a lot of campaigns for Walmart and Target for brands that are in there. And we can geo target around certain stores to drive foot traffic or to show online intent ads to cart of purchase. So everything in influencer marketing should be tied to an ROI. And I think there's these platforms that have been developed, and there's influencer platforms and automatic matchmaking. Like, mark my words, they're terrible. Like we try them all because we're just like, because we're constantly in this stuff, but it's usually just like bland. Like there's no DNA matching between the brand, the values, and what you want. So I would rather a
Right.
client do less influencers, do more on the nano micro, but make sure they're a DNA match for the brand. Those are going to be 20, 30, 40 times more effective than any of these base matchmaking. And like, this is not just like once or twice, like all the time. So it's really a different way to approach influencer marketing than is currently done.
That's amazing. For you, storytelling is important. So I know, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different, what they call like structures for, let's say a TikTok, video. What is one like story structure that you see that works really well? If you have, the right avatar or the right influencer, they could put it together and, deliver a banger video, for a certain customer.
I mean, less is more, right? Like that's like
Mhm.
always my thing. People is just be super clear. Like you don't want to, the tradition that don't bury your lead. Like do not take 30 seconds to get to what the point of what you're saying is. Like I want you to say the point up front, and then you can fill a story around the why of how you got there. But
Mhm.
and especially in this digital age, those 3 to 5 second hooks are so important, and then the storytelling comes. Or I love when a creator will say something that's midway that's midway through a story to start off the story, right? Be like,
Right.
you know, and then they'll come back and backfill. Like you have to be, and you have to be authentic. And I know I hate the word authentic now because it's overused, but like I would rather someone mess up and a doorbell rings in the middle of them telling the story, or a kid walks in or something. Like I want to see that, so it's like I don't want to see these highly polished, edited, stylized things. I want to see a real consumer having real problems. And I also want them to like sometimes trash talk a client a little bit. Like we will,
Mm.
we had this one client, it was a food product, and
Yeah.
they reformulate, and because there was a lot of backlash on the taste, and they wanted to avoid talking about it, and we said absolutely not, lean into how terrible it tasted, and like have these, and they were, and like good on them, we got them over the curve of finally saying okay fine. And that campaign went nuts. Like they all of a sudden were getting picked up in so many more groceries because they leaned into the fact that it tasted like shit, and then they went and did something about it and they owned it. And to me, that is effective storytelling, and that shows a brand that's willing to take that risk, because it's scary when you're going to talk about something that's not so good.
Right, right. Yeah. I think there's something that has been talked about. So, like, you know how whenever we say something, oh, this is great, but, usually what comes after that is not so great, right? So there's some studies on that. If you say the worst things first and then say, but, so, hey, the taste is terrible, and it smells terrible as well, but it's the greatest thing you've ever tasted. It usually kind of like backfires and it creates this really great effect, as you're kind of telling the truth about something. And so that's something that I think maybe is used in some of your videos, being
Completely.
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like own the objection. Like what are they going to object to? Like own that up front and then go into your story, because then you've negated the biases that the viewer's already going to have based on what their objection is going to be.
Right. Exactly. So wonderful. So that's pretty interesting. Um, now, for people that are looking to get into, marketing, really more or less like organic content. For those that are looking to build kind of like there's this affiliate army you can do, you have TikTok shop, people can create videos about you and they can, um scale. What do you have any recommendations on that on how, build an affiliate army of,
Yeah,
sold?
I think this is where the difference between brand and performance comes in, and this is
Mhm.
the hard pill to swallow for brand marketers. And I've kind of said you just got to not watch the junk that's going to get put out there. So like TikTok shop affiliates,
Yeah.
it will move the needle on sales. It will cause a heart attack to whoever your brand manager is, and you need to be okay with that. Like you can have your stylized content that you control the messaging on your main TikTok feed, and that's important. But if you want to have a successful TikTok shop, you just need to let those armies of affiliate do their thing. It's going to be terrible. You're going to want to vomit when you see some of the videos that come out, and that's okay, because that like you gotta have that. And that's where I say people need to be comfortable being uncomfortable in order to watch marketing work and grow. So listen, I think TikTok shop it's a powerhouse. There's a lot you can do with it. You need to have a very appealing affiliate program for TikTok shop to work, and
Mhm.
um, you need to have a product that it makes sense for, like a high end product. You don't want to do TikTok shop affiliates with, because you're going to have to send them so much product for free,
Mhm.
and that might not make sense for you. Versus if you have a skincare line, and it's a $15-20 product, TikTok shop's going to be great for you. Like you go ahead and
Nice.
you seed those campaigns. So you just got to know where your business sits in the spectrum, and approach it that way.
Of course. Okay. Great. So, you sold your company, right? And then you bought it again. I really want to ask you a couple of questions in regards to that. Like how did your leadership change, when you essentially bought it back, from the beginning? Like what did you want to recreate in your company that made it better? this time?
I think it happens more often than you think. Like I've talked to a lot of people who sell their company and then buy it back when it fails. And listen, it's like a second chances type thing, right? So at the point that I'd sold it, I'd had it for 13 years. I mean, I was done. I was just like I was tired. I was over it. And then you sell it, and then you miss it, and then you realize that oh wow, it wasn't so bad after all. And so then if you get a second chance, you get
Yeah.
to go in, you know what's broken, you know how to fix it, and you know how to do things differently, and you know how to all life experiences teaches you more things, but I think you have an appreciation, and the levers to pull. So yeah, it happens more often than you think from the stories that I've heard.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of things that you take with you when you leave, right? That the new buyer does not necessarily have, and so that's all important, which is great.
Being a founder is hard. Like anyone who says, "Oh, it's so like," they're lying, or they're just like they're not pushing themselves enough. But like if you are growing, you are constantly taking risks. Like you can go, you know, the amount of times I've gone from just being like, business is so good, to all of a sudden just like, oh my God, how are we hitting payroll? And I totally messed up because I took my eyes off the numbers. Like you got to have a certain stamina to be able to grow.
Right, right, of course. So I want to talk, a little bit about your hiring journey. Obviously having a company means you have a team of people that you guys work together to achieve a common goal for profit. So how do you go about selecting your talent? Like, what is one of your best keys to success when it comes to hiring, recruiting, onboarding? These these
I
things.
mean, listen, like the age old things of like core values, like I can't say that enough. Like we will hire and fire by our core
Hmm.
values every time. And I think people really need to understand what that means, because that is what separates things. I think having multiple different people in the hiring process is important. So it'll go through a director that they're going to sit in their department, and then it may go through someone who would be adjacent to them doing another interview. We do a lot of personality tests just to understand where people are going to fit in on that side of things.
Nice.
And I think you got and then you gotta fire fast. Like if you get someone in and they've aced all the things, I know it's an investment and you took so long trying to find them, but if you find out that there's a cultural conflict after, or there's a core values conflict, like you got to get it out right away, because
Hmm.
that just seeps into all sides of things. And I know people say that all the time, but like it's really true. I think it's and I think a lot of people get that cost sunk bias, right? Like I spent so much time trying to hire this role,
Right.
this role. Okay, we'll just keep it. We'll try and make it work. We'll try. That never works. You know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah.
it doesn't. Um, I think, and I think it's just knowing what you are and what you aren't, right? Like, do you want a corporate job where you clock out at 5 o'clock every day and that you just need to hit your deliverables and you're not going to have a creative space? Great. Know that about yourself, and know that about the team member, the role that you need. Do you need someone who is going to be available spur of the moment because things happen, but you'll give them a ton of flexibility and they can work from wherever? Like, know that too. So I think it's just really defining what the role is. Like we have some roles that they don't need to be online all the time. Like they can just be there for those Monday to Friday, like 9 to 5, like get their things done. Fine. And then we have other team members in roles that you need to have more flexibility. They need to be able to jump on a plane and go see a client. They need to, I don't care if they take a Tuesday at 2 o'clock off to do like a yoga class, like as long as they're available for the other time. So it's just knowing what you need and hiring to that.
Mm. Love it. Love it. That's great. Um, okay, wonderful. So so much to talk about. So when it comes to you know a playbook that you have for your new company you're working with, what would you do to make it culturally relevant? Like, what are the next steps?
For well, first of all, it's for a brand to know itself and know what it is and what it isn't. And then it's, if the state, so for instance, a legacy brand that's
Next
publicly
steps.
traded,
Mm.
you need to, you'll know where you're at for that, but you'll have to come and say, okay, here's what we will talk about, here's what we won't talk about. Do you want to use humor in your marketing? Do you not want to use humor in your marketing? But I think there was a moment at what was the Grammys, Oscar, I can't remember, whatever the show was that happened a few weeks ago. And my
Yeah.
team, they were watching it. We just did a big team trip to Argentina. So we flew everyone from all around the world into Buenos Aires, and we did our yearly retreat there. And so they were
Nice.
watching the award show, and the host went up, I think, to like Haley Bieber and said, "Can I get a discount code for Rhodes? Like, we want, how do I get a discount code for Rhodes for beauty products?"
Yeah.
And my team is just like, "That's a culture." Like, and they were online waiting for Rhodes to post their discount code based on something that had happened in pop culture, and they didn't. And my team was just like, "Oh my God, like what a missed opportunity," like
Wow.
that was a direct opportunity for that brand to like hit a viral moment, and did it because it was called out. And so listen, that's like a big op, and that was
Uh-huh.
missed, fine. But like there's a lot of smaller ops, like when something happens just in general pop culture, and a brand is able to sit there and say, "Oh, I can remember when like the tariffs happened with Canada, whatever, a year and a half ago, and a Canadian airline like sent out a tweet, I think it was WestJet, something about like, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like it was so perfect, and it went so viral, and they were able to jump on something that was like culturally relevant in that moment. And so that's an example, but you have to be thinking of it, right? Like it's
Right.
and it's not just, oh, the CEO sitting there in the shower and goes, "Oh, we should be culturally relevant for this." Like you need to have a team that is sitting there saying, "How can I insert this brand into conversations that are already happening?" And now it also has to make sense, right? You can't
Right.
insert a brand and force a brand into a conversation. You're like, "Oh, that's awkward. Why are they talking about that?" Like you have to make sure that it's relevant for the brand.
Yeah, so it's first like looking for those opportunities. So any award shows, Super Bowl, any of these things that have a lot of viewership, seeing if there's a moment where your brand can plug in, and you have to be obviously on top of it, and then capture the moment, like seize it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Um, so that's super cool. So let's talk on Verify. So why is it that you decided to buy this, cosmetic brand, after becoming a customer? Like what made it stand out for you?
So this to me is just like the ultimate testament of a good product. So I was using Verify. It's small little Canadian, again, a Canadian brand.
Mhm.
And a friend had put me onto it, and it was great. It worked. And I just love skincare. So I'm always testing different products. I'm using stupid expensive stuff because I think it's gonna like change my world. And I started using this product. I'm like, "Oh my God, this stuff is so effective." And it's very clinical. So it's all science backed. It's no gimmicks. It's only 5 products. They don't have a whole bunch of stuff, but it was owned by a big biotech company, and they were just divesting of the brand. And I'm like, it can't go away. Like I need this product, first of all. And so
Right.
it was one of those things that I had a conversation with the CEO, just an amazing man. And I worked out a deal. I'm like, I want to buy it to like be able to continue to use it, but also to help expand it. And so it's one of those moments where things just align. And that's what it did. And the product's fantastic. Like we just launched in Nordstrom and Ulta last week. It's an insanely high returning customer rate. Um, and if you have a good product, then you can have great marketing, right? But like you need to be promoting something that's actually works and is effective. And so it was the perfect combo for us.
Gotcha. What specific problem does this skincare product, or solve for?
I mean, hydration. So it has this turbocharged molecule called phytospherics. It's a vegan form of glycogen. It produces collagen stimulating. I mean, there's a ton of science behind it. I'm not going to do it justice, but it really works for a little bit older skin. So skin
Mhm.
that's losing moisture and losing firmness,
Mhm.
because it goes in and it powers your skin to do what your skin should be doing on its own naturally, which is producing its own collagen. And it's just insane hydration and brightening. So I haven't met anyone who's used it who hasn't been like, "Oh my God, I can't," like it responds so well, and it's so clean in its delivery. So it doesn't irritate any skin. It's really good for anyone with sensitive skin. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic product, and that's, I know I'm biased, but like anyone will tell you that it's a fantastic product.
No, no, that's awesome. It kind of sounds a little bit like the founder of Karen Lima. I think. Uh
Okay.
yeah, she had this product. She made it for herself. Some special. And then it turned out to be really good, and everybody started using it, and now it's a $1 billion brand. And so, uh,
You don't like, if something's good and it's given the pathway of light to like, it'll do well. If something's terrible, it'll crash and burn. Usually.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Well, talking about some of the investments you've made. So, you mentioned that there's a wide range of things you could offer, a founder, in regards to, investing in the company, advisory, etc. I want to know what it is that, like, maybe how you find these, like what's the selection process, for you to go through and, find these.
I think so. This kind of goes back to more of my broader business and life philosophy, which is this concept of discernment. And I
Mhm,
think like as we move into an AI world, like discernment is more important than ever.
mhm,
And it's knowing how to really look at something and see, is this the right thing to be doing right now? And it applies to everything. Even like with marketing, like I always say to clients, I'm like, less is more. You should not be doing everything all at once at this stage. Like,
mhm,
and using that discernment mechanic to be able to say yes and no to things. And that's why I think we say no to more clients than we say yes to sometimes, is because we've gotten really good at discerning what is right for a certain brand at the certain time and how it will be
mhm,
successful. The same philosophy goes to investing. Obviously we get approached by a lot of people who want us to invest in them, and they're not the right fit for us. It's not saying that the brand won't do well, but for us to invest and be able to have an impact and make a difference, like that level of discernment and knowing that is what separates our investment choices from the ones that we don't make. um, I think it's probably the most underutilized skill set that we all have access to as humans, is how you create discernment in your approach to everything that you do. And it's something that's rigorous, at least with my leadership team, that
mhm,
we instill in everything. Is like, you don't just look at something to say, yes, let's do it. We look at something to say, why shouldn't we do it? Like, and we try to find the counters for why not to do something as much as you're trying to find it for why to do something. And listen, a lot of it is just experience, right? Like you can see things really fast when you're old and young like me. But you just you see what works, you see what doesn't. But it's also something that can be taught. So even our
mhm,
younger staff members, they'll go through like a little bit of a discernment training of like, just because the client says that they want something doesn't mean that we do it. If we don't agree for a certain reason, we push back and give them the reason why and talk about a different solution. And I think that that skill set will make anyone effective in anything that they do. And again, it applies to your life as much as it applies to business or marketing.
interesting discernment. That's really, it's kind of like your gut, like gut check, right?
Gut check with a framework, right? Like,
With the
so listen,
framework.
I believe in the power, like, yeah, like, I don't get me wrong, but sometimes like people confuse their gut with like what they see on social media, like, or
Right.
they've confused like their gut with some sort of peer pressure coming in. So gut is 100% there, but then you got to put a framework around your gut decision making to make sure it's right for the right time, right? Like it could be the right gut instinct, but it might not be the right timing instinct based on something else that you have going.
Of course. Yeah. So it's gut with the framework. Love it. Okay, good. So let's think about something. So obviously you being a founder, right? What is let's talk about founders for a second. Like being a founder, obviously it's a big journey. It's a big process, of evolution. What does someone that is listening to this, maybe what could they say to themselves to find out if they're a founder, if they have what it takes, to be, a possible,
The biggest litmus test for me is, do you have the ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable? Like
Mhm,
that to me is the number one litmus test. If you can have discomfort in unknown and really stressful situations, you have the foundational framework to be a founder. You'll just have to learn other skill sets. And that, like, they say like grit, tenacity, like the amount of punches I take, like on a daily basis, is insane. If I like, and sometimes I'm like, am I not even seeing this anymore? Like, it's a lot, but you kind of you build that muscle to be able to do it. And if you don't, like I always say to people, like, know yourself, because I have like some really good friends that I would never wish it upon them in their world that they would be a founder, because they're so much happier in their lives knowing that they have like this controlled thing, and that they enjoy their lives thoroughly. Like, no one needs the amount of anxiety that I carry with me every day, all day, every day. But I love it, right? Like, so it works for me. But I think knowing yourself is so important, and just the ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Nice. So what are some things that you do on a daily basis, maybe to kind of reset or balance yourself to put yourself in I guess a neutral mood, or just a mood where you can continue on with life's challenges?
I mean, like the habits that I have that, and listen, sometimes, some days I'm good, sometimes I'm bad, but I would say the habits that I write a lot on LinkedIn. And so this was one of my things that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, but it's my morning routine, and like, not like a flex. Oh, you wake up early. Like, I do really specific things in the morning. I'll do a meditation. Sometimes it's 5 minutes and it's terrible, and I'm thinking about a million things. Sometimes it's 20 minutes and I like really tap into something. And then I will hypnotize myself. And I like, people laugh when I say this, but I'm like, it is this probably the single most important thing that I do. It is, I will listen to content that like builds up that muscle of like, if you're going to do this, you have to be being uncomfortable. Like, this is this, or I'll listen to stories of other founders that have made like, and that is my algorithm. And I will go to the gods of YouTube algorithm, and I will listen to something that's going to put me in that mindset every single day, because I don't care how positive or optimistic you think you are. You wake up every day and you got to do it again. It's like taking a shower. And that helps, like,
Yeah.
because then you kind of like cross this point where my voice in my head is like the most positive voice one has ever had in their head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you so positive? It's because I hypnotize it every single morning.
That's awesome. So it's like consumption of the right things, but also a little bit of meditation.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And I think, like, listen, social media, I know there's doomsday scrolling, but if you curate your feed in the proper way, like, that can be the most uplifting thing you've ever had access to. So, I mean, just train your algorithm right.
right, right. So following the right people, and where are you mostly on? Are you on LinkedIn or your Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, for like sharing content, LinkedIn is
Mhm.
where I share. And I consume a lot of content on LinkedIn. And then for my personal stuff, like my consuming of that positive stuff, is YouTube and Instagram. And I mean, obviously TikTok too, but like, I like the longer form of YouTube for me.
Right.
Um, and and I'm old. I'm like 43, so Instagram is still where I go to for a lot of things as well.
Yeah, you're not old at all. Nothing here, but all right. So that's really good. So now when it comes to making decisions, obviously as a founder, you get paid based on your decision making abilities. So
Mhm.
what is it? What are some things that you do, or your process to making a big decision? What is the checklist that you use to find out if that decision is indeed right for you? You know.
So that this is discernment. So yes, it starts with gut being like, because if it's a hell no, like, it's just a hell no. Like, you don't even try to convince yourself. I think that's what I learned in life. I used to have like
Mhm.
hell no feelings, and then someone would chirp in my ear. I'm like, okay, well, maybe. And then you find a way, and you're just like, you know what? If I would just gone with that initial reaction, I would have been better off. So I think it's having that gut instinct, and then looking realistically at where we're at. So we get opportunities brought to us all the time for investing, and there's a lot of great founders out there, and there's a lot of cool things. If I said yes to every gut instinct that I had, like, I mean, we would be out of business, right? So it's really sitting there and saying, okay, yeah, this is a great idea, and I really like this founder. but based on where my team is going right now and what we have, like, we just have to say no. Even though it's a gut to say yes because it's really exciting, it just doesn't fit into the timeline of where we're at and what we're focusing on. And I think that ability to have that level of discernment has been what has helped us a lot, because I used to say yes to everything because I was so excited. And since I've been able to like hone in this discernment framework, we've been a lot more productive and effective and in everything.
Nice, nice. Okay, could you give us a little bit of a rundown on your core values and maybe your team's core values?
Yes. So, I mean, my life core values, like my number one is know thyself. And I know that sounds like, but like truly, like if you know your weaknesses, if you know your strengths, if you know what lights you up, if you know what you're not, like, that helps with everything. And I think that even when you think you know yourself, like you're still starting, like something else will come in, right? And you'll and so that ability, that's why that meditation really helps me,
Hmm.
because that's like my ability just to like sit with myself, even if I don't, even if something's not happening, it's working on some level of like just getting me more in touch with who I am.
Hmm.
And then my other one personally is like live life fully. We have one life. I
Hmm.
really believe in this. Like I've had a couple near death like experiences, and it just
Wow.
shifts the way of like what's important and what's not important. And
Hmm.
um, we have one life, and it doesn't have to always be so serious. And I have to remind myself of that because sometimes I get so stressed and so in anxiety. But at the end of the day, like it usually works out. And yeah, it might be painful and you might, but one life. So just make sure you're enjoying it. Um, I think from joyful connection is another one. Like I don't do well at huge parties with a lot of people. Like I like to be with a few people having deep conversations and just doing things that cause joy. And it doesn't have to be having like expensive dinners. It could be like sitting on a sofa with a girlfriend, like having a conversation and like just things like that. From a work perspective, passion is number one. Like we don't want anyone on our team that is not passionate. Like if you're going to be on the digital team at Jive, you better love scrolling TikTok and finding trends and like really into popular culture for that to make sense for you to be in that role, because that's going to be where what you're doing day to day.
Yeah.
Ownership, we want every team member to be empowered to treat like our business and our clients business like it's their business. Like what, like they are exposed to so much through so many different industries. They're able to sit there and say to a museum client that we're opening, saying, well, you know what, we actually did this for this other med tech client and this worked so well because of XYZ, why don't you guys try it? Like we want the team members to be empowered to take that ownership perspective of trying things. And then
Hmm.
results, got to get results. Like at the end of the day, that's why we're in the business that we're in. Like you got to be producing.
Right, right. Awesome, awesome. Okay, that's a wonderful list of core values there. Um, Now, for every single thing, there is I'd say KPIs, right? So what are some KPIs that you track very, very, closely that you say, this team member is doing well, this campaign is doing well. What are some things that you track closely that, tell the story?
Depends on the department, but for like the social and digital team, it would be
Mhm.
like trend moments that they've participated in.
Nice.
And so like every week there needs to be, it doesn't, every client doesn't have to be on a trend every single week, like that would be too much, but
Right.
there needs to be a trend moment that they see. um we also have these like moments of awe as a KPI of like what have you done proactively above and beyond to deliver value to the client. So
Mm,
it might be like what I talked about, like seeing something that works for another industry and saying to the client, hey, you want to try this? Or hey, I saw, like these moments of awe that go beyond like here's the things that we're doing for you, but like here's how we are truly like looking at your business broadly and like want to be, we're invested in your success. And then you have the regular ones based on the role, like is the content going out on time, is the engagement rate for each content piece where you need it to be, like how many shares are you getting. So that's a KPI as well. Like you can see in some of our software programs like how long people have watched on a certain form of content, and we need to get them past the hook part, right? Like
Right.
3 seconds, 5 seconds, great, but like we want someone watching content for 12 to 15 seconds. And that shows the power of the hook and then the beginning of the story to capture through. And so people are graded on that. Like how many, what's the viewing time on your content? And and then obviously the PR team has very different KPIs than that, but that's for the digital team.
Nice, nice. That's cool. I love that. So trending moments and awe moments. Those are some big ones. I could tell that that's a good way to make sure that they go out of their way to find stuff valuable for the client. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
great, great. Okay, so tell me a little bit about when you were, you know, growing up. Did you see yourself becoming a founder? Was it something that did you knew you were gonna be, or like, did you stumble into it? Like, what was
Yeah.
the journey?
I couldn't get a job. So I lived abroad for 6 years. I was in London for 4 years, India for 2 years, and I was
Wow.
working. So I worked for E Entertainment when I was in London, and I worked for a big Bollywood production company when I was in Mumbai.
Mhm.
And then when I moved back to North America, I applied at Coca Cola. Like I applied at a lot of different places, and no one would hire me back then because they're like, "Oh, you've had international experience. Like you don't know the North American market." And so I couldn't get a job, and so I just started doing contract work based on what I knew in marketing, and then like I'm good at what I do, so it started. So then I just started getting more contracts, and then then I found a business partner because I didn't know this part of like the PR side, and so she went to PR school, and then we just kept on growing and adding people and doing it that way. So yeah, no, I didn't grow up being like I'm going to be an entrepreneur when I'm older, um, but I'm glad I am. But it's definitely been a stumble my way through it approach.
Nice, nice. That's great. How big is your team right now? You know, yeah.
Yes. So we're about 20 full-time people and then different contractors up and down as needed based on what we do. And that is honestly the best model because we are remote and we will staff up and staff down just based on what we have going on.
Okay, wonderful. Um, Great. So let's talk a little bit about real estate.
Yeah.
So tell us, you have a little bit, you stumbled into real estate as well throughout your journey. So what is your journey into real estate?
So again, kind of like on that discernment principle. So, I've done a few co-investments with different, so I own a place in Italy with my mom and one of my girlfriends, and we just decided like that was a great market to invest in because the prices are still really good and you can rent
Mhm.
it out to American tourists at American prices, and Italy never goes out of style, right? So we'll do certain stuff like that. Then you can leverage stuff like third home and home exchange. And so now we just travel around the world and we never pay for accommodation because you're leveraging your property against it. So that's like a different form of investment stuff to do. We do different real estate syndicates. So, shopping centers that we've gone in on, um, apartment buildings, those are done more with syndicates, so I'm hands off and just an LP in those.
Mhm.
And then there's other, then bought first apartment as an investment apartment and sold that, and then bought a house as an investment house and then sold that and went into other things. So it's not a very cohesive strategic. It's more of a as we've gone along what we've done. But I do find that like I like investing in markets that are undervalued but will never go out of style versus and I don't like investing in states that have very difficult rules for landlords.
Yeah.
So we try to invest where it's friendly.
Nice. So yeah, landlord friendly states and here and there syndications. That's good. Um, so on the investing side, discernment is something that you talk about quite a bit. You say you have a framework, right? Are you able to list like tell us what the framework is like?
Well, I mean, for real estate investing, I don't have like a specific, I mean, someone who's a savvy real estate investor would have a much better framework on how they
For
can
sure,
look
for
at.
sure.
But
What
uh,
when it comes to your investments, with your companies?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's making sure it fits into can I add value to it? Can I have a
Mm,
direct influence on where on where it's going to go? What stage is it at? Like it's a very different investment when I'm at a seed stage. It's more of like a hope and a prayer on the founder versus if they're at a Series B or Series C stage. Um, and the timing of like what we can do, like I want to work on projects like I'm passionate about. You know what I mean? Again, that like one life is short. It's like how can you will you be able to add value? Is there product market fit? Do you understand the market that it's going after? And then how do you approach it that way? I mean, even like on the real estate investing side of things, like
mm,
Italy, that's a great market for people to invest in who are comfortable
yeah,
in overseas investing. Like it's you get a lot of value for your dollar over there, and then you're able to leverage it out. And if you have multiple properties, you can do even more. So it's everyone's own risk appetite.
for sure. When it comes to, you mentioned something. Jesus, I just had it. It was okay. So when you add value, right? When you add value to things, what are you most excited about right now when it comes to like you know
Investing. I
investing?
mean,
Yeah.
AI. We're very excited about AI. We see the scary side of it and what could go wrong. But I think our framework has always been if you look for the positive, you're going to find the positive and put guardrails on yourself to make sure you stay safe. But we are in, I don't think people realize what a shift we're in right now. There's that article that's going viral on LinkedIn and X. I'm not sure if you read about it, but like referring to it to the pandemic of, in February 2020, everyone's like, oh yeah, there's this thing called the pandemic or, whatever. I'm still going to go out my regular life. And then boom, 4 weeks later, flatline. Like, how did this like, how are we now all inside and with the toilet paper shortage? I
Yeah.
think we're going through a similar a similar moment in AI that everyone's like, yeah, yeah, we're using AI for like prompts and search um and the companies that are going to get ahead are the ones that are not using it for prompt and search. They are embracing it and putting safety guardrails up. And I don't think people are paying enough attention right now.
Hmm. Gotcha. What are you doing now, and like how are you using AI in terms of like maybe ways that other people aren't using it?
We're building agents internally of things that are able to do a better job than any human is able to do.
Mhm.
We're looking at. I mean, again, we're very fortunate. Like ByteDance, the TikTok parent company, is one of our clients, and they're leading the way in their B2B products of AI, and so we get to work with those firsthand. And we're implementing those into our workflow. Like the level of video production that we're able to do is insane. The level of graphics, the level of what we're able to augment with what we do with our human creators, just the efficiencies and workflows, allowing our teams to be more creative. I think AI has given us because they're not
Mhm.
having to do all the rote tasks of like filing this and this. Like all of that is taken off their plate, and now they're really able to dive into like, well, how do we participate in this trend? How do we create this moment? And I think we're getting a higher caliber output as a result of what AI is able to take off of their just admin weight that they've been doing.
Nice. Wow. Okay. So I did want to touch on AI a little bit. So you, I know it's huge right now. The you can generate ads with AI. Like have characters and stuff. How are you? Have you been using that and in your campaigns at all? Or
Absolutely. Like we'll use it for certain things. We still use human creators for the content, right? So
Mhm.
it's um but at some point there might be a world where our AI human based stuff is not what we is even better than where we're at. But yeah, we're testing every single tool. Like you have to be. And And there's some really great ones out there. Like again, I'm plugging ByteDance because they're our client, but like Sea Dream, Sea Dance, like the stuff that they have coming out is phenomenal. And anyone can access it, right? So you don't have to be
Yeah.
a developer, you don't have to be a coder. uh, you just have to like play around with it and experiment and be willing to feel like we produce some crap, like we produce
Right.
some crappy things, and now we've like enjoyed, we're just like, oh my god, can you like remember when 4 months ago like we did that, like what were we thinking? So like you got to be testing.
Of course, of course. I know, for example, in the real estate world, I know that so we run ads, to find motivated sellers, right?
Mhm.
But we've actually been testing AI characters. And so what we found is that AI characters are performing better than a normal person. And it's much easier for us to create more creatives because we're not limited, by the amount of people we can hire. And so it's actually it's been great. Like you can, people, and this is, this through marketing, but like a single mom, Caucasian is going to resonate with a Caucasian single mom, right? And so when you can change the avatars, like and their ethnicity, like someone's like a Latina or someone's African American, etc., like you're able to hit more of these different pockets that people are not really doing so much. And so with this we've actually been testing, and we've been able to get lower cost per lead, and just overall more engagement. So yeah, it's something great. So
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're doing that. And it also, especially when you use animated characters, we find sometimes like that's just like a broader appeal because it takes out any bias whatsoever. So, but you got to constantly be testing and iterating both because you also just never know what the algorithm serves up sometimes. And so I always say, like, people are like, I have a winning content. I'm like, I'm sure you have a winning piece of content, but like that's not going to be winning for the next 90 days. Like start
right.
cycling some more things to test.
Yeah, you definitely have to have like a new, new more winning pieces of content, or otherwise you're gonna like everything gets died out. At some point, like you've saturated the market, with your piece of content, and so yeah, so that's really interesting. So AI agents, what else have you been, in AI? The AI agents, these people will do routine tasks. Can you explain what an AI agent is for someone that doesn't know?
Yeah, I mean, in my language, I'll explain what an AI agent is. Someone
Yeah.
who's in AI is like going to be rolling over in their grave right now. But so for me, it's like a digital employee that will do things that are within confines over and over and over again all the time. So for instance, for us, it's like it's really important for us to know when a new CMO gets hired at a brand, right? Because that usually shows that like agencies are going to change and there's going to be like different frame. And so we have an agent that is scouring all of the job announcement boards, LinkedIn profiles to see, and then every morning we get a nice little tight report in our Slack channel of like, this person's moved from here to here, this person's gone from here to here, this person's gone from here to here, they worked with this brand that you've worked with before, here's how you should talk. And so they will
Mm,
do all of the research analysis of, Sandra just moved to this non-dairy creamer company and she knows the work that you did with Dea, so like we get that, right? And so that would take a human hours, and like they wouldn't be able, but our little agent just does this all night long and neatly delivers it to us in our inbox. So then we're able to say, oh well, I know Jess who used to work with Sandra, who, and I'll reach out to Jess, and you know what I mean, like, so
yeah.
they're not replacing the human because you still need your relationships, but they're replacing all of that like back end route tasks that used to take people a lot of time. And my team hated doing it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that killed their creativity. They're just like, oh, gotta do another goddamn like search and like pull things in this. And now we're saying, okay, spend your entire day trend jacking. And they're like, yes, because then they get to be creative and come up with concepts versus they used to have to spend like 4 hours a day researching movement in the industry in order to serve up to our sales teams.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. So great. So tell us a bit about the content you're making on LinkedIn. If someone were to listen to this, what kind of content do you post?
I mean, it's a combination of war stories of like what doesn't work. um, and then just also just kind of like this. Listen, we are very specific in marketing, but we're very broad because we're in a lot of businesses. So we like fortunately get access to see what works and what doesn't for companies at different stages. And I
Mhm.
post a lot on that, right? So it's and a lot on the skill sets that I believe that AI will not be able to replicate. So like discernment, grit, like thinking about things in different methodologies, that, and then some random, like we were all in Argentina a couple weeks ago, like team photos of what we did there and why I believe like company culture needs to be in person a certain amount of the time. And yeah, so just random musings. But if you're interested in influencer marketing and stuff, like we just released something today that shows exactly how to get in Walmart and Target with an influencer campaign, like play by play listed out for a brand. So someone can just copy and go do it. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it as effectively as an agency that does it all the time, but it's right there for you. So we give a lot of different content, and on my
That's
personal one.
that's awesome. Okay, great. And so if people want to hear more from you, where can they go find you?
Lindsay Nahmiache on my, and it's a very difficult last name, but Lindsay and something usually comes up.
Namiish?
Nahmiache. Yeah.
Namiesh. Wow. Okay. Okay. All right.
My dad's Moroccan. I know I don't look very Moroccan, but
You don't.
I look like my dad, but I have my mom's skin tone. She's Dutch. Um,
Okay.
so anyways, so LinkedIn is where I'm most active, but then also, Jive, you can follow Jive on any of the channels, and we give out a lot of information and a lot of tips and tricks. And yeah, but that's where you can find me.
Okay, great. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on today on the Julian Castle Show. We hope to see you on LinkedIn and explore as this AI becomes, more embedded into our culture and influencer marketing becomes more important. And so, thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thanks, Julian. Nice to meet you.